Hi guys, how are you all? This is FJ What If. Today we are going to discuss about what if Naruto was king of Shaman and had Spirit of Fire part 11. Before start the episode, please like and subscribe my channel. Chapter 11, Naruto's test. A 14-year-old Naruto smiled as his eyes lingered on the large wooden gate of Konoha. His return was way overdue. He was supposed to arrive 6 months ago at the end of his vacation. His delay to return was due to the 3 children behind him, deciding to expose them to the wilds while he trained their shamanic abilities to grant them a bit of control over their Furyoku before moving on to the next state of their lessons. Naruto took his eyes off the gate, turning to his right to see a 9-year-old Miyako scribbling something on a piece of paper, the tip of her tongue comically sticking out of the side of her mouth while sitting on the back of a very annoyed 5-foot-tall Kurama who Naruto brought out of the seal to enjoy some time out of his dreary cage. Behind her was a sleeping 7-year-old boy with reddish-brown hair, enjoying the warmth of Kurama's fur as they traveled. This was the second child Naruto picked up with the potential to become a shaman. Naruto met Kirito in one of the trading settlements in Demon Country when he visited the dreary continent. The boy was an orphan, kicked out of the orphanage because he was labeled as crazy, since the boy would babble to his imaginary friend. Of course, Naruto immediately saw the spirit of a black wolf flanking the boy as he babbled away, much to the disgust of the residents who viewed him as an idiot. Considering the boy was an orphan, Naruto immediately adopted the boy and the leader of the settlement happily consented to his request. It took a while to explain to the boy about his abilities, but Kirito believed him when he brought out Kurama and Soph while Miyako brought out Tama. It turned out that the wolf was Kirito's GS. The spirit attached itself to the boy after sensing the latent shamanic abilities in his body. Naruto left Demon Country with another student added to family. Of course, Naruto immediately treated Kirito as one since Miyako declared that the boy was her long-lost brother before she was tackled by a happy Kirito. The last person in the group was the same age as Naruto, a dark-haired teen wearing a dark gray battle kimono tied to the waist by a black obi sash and an ornate katana tucked under it by his right hip. Instead of boots or sandals, he was wearing the traditional straw sandals commonly worn by traveling samurai outside Iron Country. Masahiro was the great-grandson of the famed samurai general, Mifune. The reason why he was now part of the group was due to Mifune's request for Naruto to train the boy in the ways of the shaman after displaying the ability to see dead people around him, which manifested sometime around his 9th birthday. Obviously, Naruto had no problems with that and was more than happy to have someone his age become a part of his family, a great sparring partner since Masahiro was a skilled swordsman, so Naruto had plenty of practice with the staff fighting style he invented. Yes, Masahiro was now a part of his family when the teen showed interest in becoming an Asakura. Mifune agreed with his great-grandson on the stipulation that he visits once a year during the old samurai's birthday. With the condition agreed upon, Naruto left Iron Country with Masahiro in tow along with a sealed scroll for the Sandaime detailing an alliance with Iron Country as long as Masahiro chose to stay in Konoha. "What do you think, Naruto-ni-san?" asked Miyako as she showed Naruto what she was working on. Naruto frowned as he studied the complicated divination chart drawn by Miyako after teaching the girl the basics shamanic divination. It was crudely done, but the girl had the formation memorized to his satisfaction. He promised the girl that he would help her make a divination board once they returned to Konoha. "Very good, Miyako-chan. You need to practice your calligraphy since your drawing is a bit messy." Naruto praised the girl who pouted while bringing her arms across her chest. "It's not my fault," she protested. "Kurama keeps moving around." "I was walking, brat," huffed Kurama as he used his tail to swat the girl softly on the head. "You didn't have to draw while riding on my back. Besides, it's not my fault that you jumped on my back for a ride when I came out of Naruto's seal." Miyako didn't answer but slid down to Kurama's neck and grabbed the fox's ears none too gently, causing the oversouled Bayu to growl in irritation. "All right, you two. We're already here, so no fighting please," interrupted Naruto since he could already see a fight brewing between the two. He didn't want these two to argue since the last time they did ended in an impromptu wrestling match between Kurama and Tama which leveled a sizable chunk of the forest in Swamp Country. He definitely didn't want the two to have another just outside Konoha's gates. "So this is Konoha," said Masahiro as he eyed the large gate before turning to a sleeping Kirito and poking him on the ribs. "Wake up, Kirito-kun. It took a few more pokes before the boy groggily pushed himself upright, rubbing his eyes to get rid of the grit. Huh, he said groggily as he looked around. He saw the large wooden gate causing his eyes to widen. We're here, he exclaimed in happiness, all trace of sleepiness gone. That's what I said. Masahiro sighed. He was the caretaker of the two outside classes. He looked at Naruto, who was eyeing Kurama speculatively while ignoring the bickering fox and its female passenger. Aren't you going to disperse Kurama back into the seal, Naruto-sama? He pointed out. He knew what Kyuubi was to the citizens of Konoha. Despite the fact that Kurama didn't resemble the Kyuubi of legends thanks to Naruto's tweaking the oversoul, foxes were still despised by the villagers. Naruto thought for a bit before answering. I don't think so, Masahiro-kun, said Naruto with a shake of his head. Besides, Kurama in his current form doesn't resemble the Kyuubi that attacked Konoha 14 years ago. Besides, I want the village to get used to the idea that I have a fox for a GS other than Soph. So does this mean that I can bring out Shin, Naruto-ni-san? Asked Kirito immediately after getting off Kurama's back. Of course, but keep the size similar to Kurama if you please. We don't want to scare the villagers by letting giant animals into Konoha. Naruto said with a smirk before adding, even if it does look impressive. Sweet, exclaimed Kirito as he pulled out a small knife, a memento from his deceased father before he was placed in the orphanage, and held it in front of him as a burst of Furyoku surrounded the boy. Oversoul. Black energies appeared out of nowhere to coalesce around Kirito, totally engulfing him in a sphere of pure darkness before it shattered to reveal the boy on top of a large black wolf a few inches smaller than Kurama. The boy immediately scratched the OS on the ear, causing the GS to growl in happiness. Despite being an ancient wolf spirit, Shin, as Kirito dubbed him, couldn't speak, though it could mentally communicate with Kirito and no one else. Naruto took his eyes away from Kirito and Shin before turning to Masahiro, who studied the large animal. You know, Masahiro-kun, there were plenty of opportunities for you to have a GS, but I don't know why you didn't accept one. Naruto told the teen, who merely shook his head. The boy was a natural medium, making it easy for him to contract with spirits if he let them. However, the many animals and human souls who wanted to be his GS were turned down. It was funny at how the spirits tend to fawn at the teen, but it became tiresome after the first dozen. I don't know how to explain it, Naruto-sama. I don't sense any attachments to those spirits, and the idea of having one of them as my GS repulsed me for some reason. Masahiro admitted before turning to the gates of Konoha. However, my gut is telling me that my GS is nearby, possibly in the forest where your home is located. It is your home as well, Masahiro-kun. Naruto corrected the teen, who gave him a thankful smile. I suggest that you follow your instincts, since it is a must for us shamans. Besides, you need to find our GS soon, since you won't be able to move on to the next step without a spirit bonded to you. Miyaka-chan and Kirito-kun already have you beat in that regard. That may be so, Naruto-sama, Masahiro said with a sniff before a sly smirk appeared on his face. Despite having oversouls of their own, they still can't defeat me even if they face me together. Naruto chuckled when he saw the glare Kirito and Miyaka leveled at the smug swordsman. He couldn't refute Masahiro's statement. Masahiro was quite talented with his sword, considering who his teacher was, a prodigy in the sword arts. However, he became deadlier when he experimented with his newly discovered Furyoku and infused the spiritual energy onto his sword. He could do very destructive techniques that he dubbed Omudo-ru. Tama and Shin didn't stand a chance when faced with a calm Furyoku-wielding samurai disciple, and it showed in their many shamanic spars during their travels. They're still kids, Masahiro-kun. They didn't have a samurai general teaching them powerful sword techniques. Naruto chided the teen, who merely shrugged. All right everyone, look smart as we enter Konoha. I want you guys to show the villagers that you are my students. He barked to the group, who suddenly had an aura of confidence around them. Miyaka nodded before jumping out of Kurama's back. She summoned Tama before the large Oni placed her on his shoulders and taking their place behind Naruto. Shin and Kirito took to his left, while Masahiro summoned a dozen leaf Shikagemas floating around him as he took Naruto's right. Kurama took the front to complete the diamond formation. The party of four entered the Konoha, stopping by the wide-eyed Shunin guards to report their entry before making their way to the Hokage's tower at the center of the village. The group was met with wide-eyed stares from the civilians and shinobi as they stared at the impressive procession of shamans. However, some glares were sent to Kurama, who had Naruto sitting on its back, ignoring them since there was nothing they could do about it. "You're very late, Naruto-kun," said the Sandaime as he leveled a reproachful look at a widely grinning Naruto. "I expected you here 6 months ago, but all I got was a disgruntled Team 9 saying that you sent him home." Naruto smirked upon remembering the faces of Team 9 and Kakashi when he ordered them to return to Konoha after picking up Masahiro in Iron Country. They put up quite a fuss at first, but he told them that he would be training his new charges and he didn't want people outside the clan to participate even as watchers. It also helped that he threatened to sick Kurama at them if they didn't comply. They took off as if the hounds of Yami were after them. "I have a legitimate reason for parting with them, Gigi," Naruto told the Sandaime, who sighed. "I'm sure Kakashi already told you what it is." "Fine." The old man gave in as he eyed the trio behind Naruto. "I take it these are the new shamans you are training in Kakashi's report. They are quite a talented bunch too. This is Asakura Miyaka, who I picked up in Bird Country." Naruto introduced the cute 9-year-old Sandaime, who smiled at the girl before turning to the Asakura clan head with a curious frown. "I got a report from my Anbu that she was riding on a large red demon on the way here," he asked, not liking the absence of such a powerful figure from the introduction. "Oh, that's Tama. He's my GS. He is too big for your tower, so I sent him away for now, Gigi," said Miyaka, mimicking the address Naruto gave the Sandaime, earning a chuckle from the rest of the group. "I see." Sarutobi nodded. "And the rest?" "The youngest is Kirito and the wolf cub on his shoulder is his GS Shin," said Naruto as he patted the boy's head. He gestured towards the katana-wielding teen. "This is Masahiro, Mifune-sama's great-grandson. His grandfather requested that I take him in as a disciple when we discovered that he was a shaman since he was 9. A pleasure to meet you, Hokage-sama." Masahiro greeted the Sandaime with a bow of respect. He straightened and pulled out a blue scroll from inside his kimono and placed it on the table. "This is a trade agreement from grandfather." This surprised the Sandaime since Iron Country disregarded any forms of trade agreement from any shinobi village due to their neutrality. Sure, they traded goods via their merchants, but nothing substantial to merit an economic alliance. It would seem that being Naruto's disciple has its perks that would benefit Konoha as a whole. He opened the scroll to read the content. His eyebrow rose when he read what the old samurai leader was offering. "Let me get this straight. As long as you stay here in Konoha, Iron Country will open its door to an exclusive trade on your country's chakra metals. Is this right?" Sarutobi asked in disbelief while Masahiro nodded. "Yes, Sandaime-sama. Sofu-sama also states that I can be a shinobi of the village as long as I am sufficiently trained in the shinobi arts," said the teen with an excited smile on his face. He wanted to learn the shinobi arts since he already learned how to use chakra thanks to his samurai training. Sarutobi pondered the boy's request. He didn't mind enrolling Masahiro into the academy since he could feel the boy's chakra flowing fluidly in his body. This meant that he was trained, and considering who his relation was, the teen was more than prepared to handle the stress of being a shinobi. He turned to Naruto, who was looking out the window with a frown on his face. "What do you think, Naruto-kun?" the Sandaime asked Naruto, who was brought out of his thoughts upon hearing the question. "I don't mind as long as he is trained properly in the shinobi arts," Naruto said with a shrug. He didn't really give it any thought since he was more focused on what he was getting from Sasuke. The moment Masahiro and the Sandaime started talking, he used his Reishi to reach out to the last Uchiha of Konoha. He inwardly winced at the negative emotions churning within his charge. It would seem that his year of absence made things worse since he wasn't there to keep an eye on things. He made a mental note to mention this to the Hokage later to subject Sasuke to a mind walk by a Yamanaka since such negativity would be disastrous if left unchecked. That and the fact that he didn't want break his promise to Itachi. The man already has too much to worry about without adding his rampaging younger brother into the mix. If that is the case, then I'll enroll him in this year's graduating class, said the Sandaime as he brought out the necessary forms to be filled out. Could you include the forms for adopting these 3 into the Asakura family, Hokage Gigi? Naruto asked while the Hokage was rummaging around in his drawer. I have no problems with that. said the Sandaime as he handed the forms to Naruto, who took it and leafed through the pages. He mentally winced since he would have to fill them all up tonight. Please bring them back to me as soon as possible for processing. The graduating class will start in 2 weeks. Go to the academy and look for Yumi no Iruka to get the curriculum so you can borrow the necessary books from the library for Masahiro to go through to catch up to his peers. Thanks, Gigi, said Naruto with a smile. I guess that's it for now. I need to show the kids the compound and a bit of an exercise along the way. Exercise? Asked Sarutobi in curiosity. Yes. They will have to find the Asakura compound in the Forest of Death using nothing but the shamanic training to aid them. Naruto said with a manic grin that scared Miyaka, Kirito, and Masahiro shitless. You can consider this an initiation test for any new shamans planning to join the family. Naruto led the 3 to the outskirts of the Forest of Death. They were now standing in front of Gate 13, mandated by the Hokage for the use of Asakura. Naruto and those he deemed part of his family. He already decided that newly trained shamans would have to get used to the forest if they wanted to live there. After all, they would be in charge of protecting the place if he wasn't around, so might as well get used to the dangerous surrounding he considered their backyard. Besides, it was a great initiation rite for new shamans. The dangers in the Forest of Death would be a great help in boosting their Furyoku levels and teaching them fighting skills along the way. Alright, Gakis, said Naruto to the trio, eliciting a snort from Masahiro considering they were the same age. Your task is to find the Asakura compound deep within this forest. I already told you before that the Forest of Death is home to oversized predators due to the abundant energy released by the chakra-charged trees, so think of this as a survival training program geared towards shamans. Any questions? Can we go all out, Naruto-ni-sama? Asked Kirito, who eyed the forest hungrily. Having a wolf as a GS, some of its wild traits bled to the boy when they combined. Of course. You need everything in your arsenal to survive the forest, so you definitely have to go all out. The place is considered a training ground by some of the elites in the village and the Shunin exams since it fits the survival part to a T. Naruto answered the excited Kirito, who was eyeing the forest as if it was his very own playground. He inwardly chuckled since the boy would be singing a different tune once he experienced the tender loving care the predators would subject him to. I don't need to tell them that I also placed a few of my Shikagemus along the trail they need to pass in order to reach the compound. Coo, he cackled inwardly while keeping a straight face to avoid suspicions. How about food? Asked Miyaka as she fingered the bracelet on her wrist, eager to call out Tama since the forest was giving her goosebumps. The place is filled with edible plants and animals as long as you're not picky. I already taught you 3 everything you need to know about living in the wild, so what you eat in there is up to you. Naruto said with a shrug as he called out Soph, who materialized behind him and lifted its master off the ground. There is no time limit. Start as you see fit, was all he said before he and Soph flew off to who knows where. The 3 novice shamans watched their master fly away before looking at each other and sighing in unison. I guess we better get started, said Masahiro as he used his thumb to flick his katana loose from its sheath. He could feel the strong presence of animals in the area and the task was going to take a lot out of them. He entered the large gate followed by Miyaka and Kirito, who already have their GS materialized. This was going to be a long test. Omudo-ru, soul decapitation, Masahiro whispered while in a Batojutsu stance before disappearing and reappearing behind a pair of grotesque demons. He sheathed his katana with a flourish as the demon's form dematerialized to reveal 2 paper tags cut in half as it fell to the forest floor. He turned around to see Miyaka, her hands clasped together as if in prayer, chanting a sutra taught to her by Naruto as a means to ward off evil spirits and sustaining the barrier around the clearing that stopped most of the malicious spirits and live predators from ambushing them, while the 2 took care of those that entered their makeshift campsite. Seeing that sole female in the group have everything well in hand, he turned to see Kirito calling out one of his techniques. Wolf fangs, shouted Kirito as dozens of fang-like daggers flew out of his black and blue wolf motif armor to pierce and shred 3 demons to reveal shredded and torn tags. The fangs swerved in the air to return to its master, easily fitting back into Kirito's outfit, forming the shoulder guard of his armor OS. That's the last of them, the boy said in relief before turning to Miyaka. We're done, Miyaka-ne-san. Miyaka nodded before shifting her prayer to another spell Naruto taught her. Her monotone chant reached a crescendo as the near-transparent barrier turned a malicious red before expanding, encompassing the attackers outside the protective dome, destroying spirits and knocking out the living. Done with her part, she released the spell before releasing a tried breath. "I never want to do that again," Miyako exclaimed tiredly. The protective turned offensive barrier was the spell Naruto taught her. She wasn't an offensive shaman, her strength were on amulet creation, divination, and protection. The barrier spell was unique since it could be modified to a minor version of an exorcism spell that can dispel shikagemus, ward off spirits, and electrocute the living. She already mastered the spell, but she couldn't keep it up for long since it took a lot of Furyoku to sustain. "Kirito-kun, can you check if there are more attackers nearby?" "Already done, Ne-chan," Kirito quipped as he used his heightened senses to scout the area. Merging with Shin gave him the senses and instincts of a wolf. The same abilities were amplified when Shin was in armor mode or merged with his GS. "There's nothing around us right now." He noticed the twitching tigers and snakes just outside the clearing. "Well, nothing conscious anyway." The trio has been in the forest for 3 days now and they were nowhere near the Asakura compound. Thanks to Miyaka's divination technique, they found out that their house was a day's walk to the north. However, they didn't reach their intended destination because the path towards the Asakura compound was riddled with huge predators that wanted to make a meal out of them, malicious spirits bound to the place by Naruto as part of the compound's protection, and of course, shikagemus in various shapes or forms to hinder their journey. They knew that Naruto was a powerful shaman, but to have multiple shikagemus active at the same time was something they couldn't comprehend. Materializing a shikigami was no easy feat. It takes a lot of Furyoku to pull off and the focus needed was astronomical. To think that Naruto created and maintained them was shocking to say the least. "What's the count?" asked Kirito as he dematerialized Shin back into spirit form to conserve Furyoku. Armor OS didn't require a lot of Furyoku to create, but they needed all the help they could get since Naruto was ruthless in hindering them from reaching the destination. 29 C-class shikagemus, 15 tigers on steroids, and a lot of man-sized snakes. Miyako answered with obvious sarcasm. "We can do without the sarcasm, Miyako-chan." Masahiro chided the girl who pouted. "Considering who our master is, it is obvious that he is testing us and our abilities. I already expected this to happen when he ordered us to go all out. I know, but this is so tiring. It's been 3 days. I haven't had a decent sleep. I stink and badly need a bath." Miyako all but whined. This was not the forest of death. No, in her mind, this was the forest of hell. "Fine." Masahiro sighed before turning his face north. "How far away are we?" Miyako huffed as she took out her makeshift divination board she carved out from a large wood the second day they entered the forest. It wasn't that complete, but it was enough to divine the location to the Asakura compound. She chanted as she opened her mind's eye to the divination technique, her eyes taking a glazed look as if in a trance. It took her 5 minutes to find the answer. The Asakura compound is 3 kilometers away due northeast. Masahiro nodded as he extended his senses. He could feel a dozen or so shikagemus in front of them with a few more living signatures signifying the predators of the forest. He mulled the information before deciding on a plan to get them there as fast as possible. "All right. Here is what we're going to do. We are almost there, so we are going to plow our way through," he started, earning a startled look from Miyako and Kirito. "We can get there faster if we run, but I can sense more ambush along the path. Instead of taking the slow route, we are going to hit hard and fast. Miyako-chan, I want you to materialize Tama. He is going to be your and Kirito's ride. I want you to stay on his shoulder and try to use some spells to attack." He got a determined nod from Miyako before she materialized the 15-foot-tall Tama in all his glory. He turned to Kirito. "Kirito-kun, I want you to ride on Tama's other shoulder in your armor OS. I want you to snipe any enemies that comes within range using your wolf fangs." "What are you going to do, Masahiro-ni-san?" asked Kirito as Shin in his armor form materialized on his body before being picked up by Tama and placed the boy on his shoulder opposite of Miyako, who was already preparing her makeshift tags. Masahiro smiled grimly as he pulled out his katana and materialized a dozen-leaf shikagemus. "I am going to destroy anything in our path." The grim smile transformed into a manic grin with Miyako and Kirito sporting the same. Since Naruto-sama wants to test us, then we are going to show him what we can do. Naruto and Sandaime were currently relaxing in front of a large man-size orb that showed Miyaka, Kirito, and Masahiro destroying anything in their path as they ran as fast as their legs could carry them towards the safety of the Asakura compound. The Sandaime couldn't help but approve of the power the three displayed in surviving the dangerous path from Gate 13 to the clearing where Naruto's home was located. You taught them well, Naruto-kun. It would seem that each of them have their specialties in the shamanic arts. Noted Sarutobi as he thought of the various skills the trio pulled out of their metaphoric sleeves to survive the jungle. Naruto nodded while sipping his tea. I don't like putting all their skills in one basket, but it's best to have a specialization to start before learning other shamanic paths. Kirito-kun is an offensive type that specializes in oversoul techniques. He was able to master Armor OS in just 1 week with his GS and uses it like a pro. He also trained himself in tracking since Shin is a wolf spirit, giving him the instincts and senses of a wolf if they combine or when in armor mode. Naruto explained to the nodding Hokage. Miyaka, he asked the powerful shaman who smirked, pride shining in his eyes at the mention of the girl he considered a younger sister. Ah, she's a complicated one. She doesn't like to hurt people because of how the townsfolk in Bird Country treated her. She will do so if push comes to shove, but her specialty lies in divination and defensive spells. The use of the Furyoku barrier and turning it into an exorcism spell in a single move is a sign of her latent ability in that area. Naruto said with pride in his voice. As you can see, she can divine with great accuracy despite the makeshift tools she created a day back. I will teach her to make the right tools and enchant them properly for more accurate divinations. Interesting, said the Sandaime as he watched the girl throw paper tags at various shikagemas that dispelled the spirit construct upon contact. From what I can see, she is also talented in shamanic seal, though I can say that they are more into the exorcism variety. Naruto smiled at his surrogate grandfather. Despite having no shamanic abilities, the aged leader took the time to study all the books he transcribed from his knowledge from the collective minds he inherited from the Asakura family. His alias, the Professor, was aptly given. That's more of a hobby than a specialization, said Naruto. She only brings out the tags under desperation. However, I am sure she will be delving into the art since she is finding it useful under duress. That's an accurate assumption. How about Masahiro-kun? I noticed that he didn't materialize his GS, said Sarutobi as he curiously watched the great-grandson of Mifune release an arc of energy as he swung his katana that bisected the two demons in front of him while flinging leaf shikagemas everywhere to take care of the animals that came too close to the fleeing group. He doesn't have a GS yet, Naruto said with a chuckle. He is a natural medium, so he attracts spirits like bees to honey. However, he didn't pick a GS since they didn't feel natural to him. He said that his spirit is somewhere in the forests, or I expect he will be looking for it or them in between his studies and training. Training? Did you see the attack he just used? Asked Naruto, who got a nod from the aged leader. With the lack of a GS to perform more powerful attack, he is using his Furyoku with his sword techniques to create a new style. He called it Onmudo-Ru if I'm not mistaken, a merging of Mifune's style and his spirit energy. Quite talented swordsman, the boy is, and a prodigy in the offensive use of spiritual energy. Obviously, he is an offensive type. His samurai training definitely saw to that. I noticed, said the Sandaime in amusement. Since Masahiro shows interest in the shinobi arts, will the other two join him in learning about chakra? That's their prerogative, said Naruto with a shrug. My concern is to teach them the abilities that come with the shamanic heritage. If they chose to become a shinobi, a full-time shaman, or a hybrid of both, that is their decision, not mine. Aren't you a bit laid back on your decisions with them? The Sandaime pointed out. You are their master after all. I know, but I believe in free will and making one's own decision to pave the way to the future. I will teach them what they want in the shamanic arts, but what they want to do with their life is their choice. Naruto said with a smirk. However, a part of their income will go to the Asakura vault. Since they are now part of the family, it is only right that they contribute to its upkeep. You're already rich, Naruto-kun. The Sandaime deadpanned, knowing how much the Asakura fortune has grown thanks to his many missions in and out of the village. Last time he checked, the balance rivaled the Nara clan already. The fire daimyo was very generous in paying for Naruto's services and offered a monthly stipend as long as the protection around the fire daimyo's palace is maintained. That I am, but this will teach them responsibility, Naruto retorted. Since they expressed concerns in being part of the Asakura family, then they will have to play a part in its success. I guess I can understand that, said the Sandaime before taking a bite of his onigiri, a thoughtful look on his face. Since we are in that topic, I will post a mission request in a few weeks, Gigi. Naruto said after a few minutes of silence and watching the trio's plight as they neared the boundary of the Asakura property. Why? Well, if they want to learn to become shinobi, then I need a trainer for them. I think an A rank long-term mission should be enough. I would think of it along the line of AB rank, Naruto-kun. True, but considering Werethi will be trained, an A rank is advisable, Naruto said with a smirk, causing the Sandaime to shudder. I'll come up with a list of shinobi for that mission to be approved later, said the aged leader with a bit of hesitation, his mind already coming up with a list on who was unfortunate enough to teach the new shamans of Konoha. Ebisu, Konohamaru's tutor, was on top of that list since the man needs a few scares to bring him back to reality. He inwardly scoffed. Shortcut to Hokage indeed. If that was the case, then anyone can become a Kage. Stupid tutor. I'll leave that in your expert hands, Hokage-sama, Naruto said with a mock bow to the Hokage, finally sighed in exasperation. Please try to make sure that they're protected, Naruto-kun. The aged leader pleaded, though there was a bit of a whine to his voice that made Naruto chuckle in amusement. I promise, old man, Naruto assured his surrogate grandfather, who gave him a doubtful look. He saw the kids already past the boundary and saw who was waiting for them. He grinned. You might want to watch the next part, old man. Huh, Sarutobi exclaimed dumbly before looking at the viewing orb. What he saw scared him. Are you crazy? He all but screamed to the laughing Naruto. Finally, shouted Miyako as she slumped down on the ground, dispersing Tama back to spirit form and into her bracelet to rest. All three of them were already within the safety of the barrier Naruto erected around the compound. The calming presence and the sense of safety surrounding them was a testament to that. I don't want to go through that again, Kirito panted as he tried to fill his lungs with as much oxygen as he could. He noticed the silence from the eldest of their ragtag party. He looked up to see Masahiro staring disbelievingly in front of him. He followed the teen's line of sight and cursed when he saw who was waiting for them in front of the large gate that marked the entrance to their new home. Shit. Hello, brats, said a 20-foot-tall Kurama, his tails waving excitedly behind him as he looked down at the three fatigued shaman neophytes. I'm the last hurdle you have to face. Coo coo coo. The curses the trio let out would have made Ibiki and Anko proud if they heard it. End of chapter 11.